Okay guys, we're going to make a start. So welcome to our webinar. I'm Sangeeta Vasani, Family Support Practitioner at Brent Specialist Academy Trust. Today's webinar focus will be on engagement. We have Amy McNicholas with us, our Autism Lead, and she'll be answering questions sent through by parents. Before we start, just be aware that all participants' audio and video will be muted and hidden. You will only see and hear Amy and me. This webinar will be recorded, but be assured only Amy and I will be visible and audible. Your names will not be displayed. Direct chat visible only to Amy might be enabled at the end of this meeting for further questions if we have enough time. So, should we get started, Amy?
Yes, let's.
Okay, so our first question is, my child will only sit for 10 seconds and focus on an activity. How can I build up their attention?
This is a really common question that we get asked quite a lot when we're talking about homework at home. It's really important to think about starting where your child is at. So if they can only focus for 10 seconds, only expect them to do that to begin with, and we can work to build that up over time. It's definitely a skill that will take time to work on. I'd start by minimizing as many distractions in your environment as you can. So turn off the TV, put some of their favourite toys out of reach so they can't get to them, and use them as a way of getting out of doing the work. Definitely ask your class teacher, your child's class teacher, or your child's speech and language therapist for a now and next board. And this is a really easy way to explain to your child that now we're going to do this activity, but next we can do something that you want to do. It means that the activity that the child is struggling to engage with, they know it's going to finish at some point, and they know that there's something fun coming soon. Start off with activities that you know your child's able to do or enjoys doing. This means they're more likely to engage for a longer period of time. Things like matching boards are really good for this because they've got lots of discrete tasks that you can set. So they might start, if they're only focusing for 10 seconds, you might start with 2 or 3 pictures to match. And then as the days go on, ask them to do 4 the next time before you allow them to go on to the next activity. Next day, 5 and 6, and gradually over time you'll be able to build up how long they're able to attend and join in with an activity for.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think I like the bit about you saying about the environment, because if it's a busy environment, then it can be really distracting. So yeah. I think spending time on a good quiet place and really simple environment is really important.
Yeah, and it's one of the hard things to do at home where there's so much going on.
Yeah. Okay, so our second question is, how do I get my child to engage in an activity such as colouring, painting, and trying different colours, while trying to get him to sit longer, without giving rewards such as biscuits every time? And the last part to this question is the question with a few questions within it, and also to paint in the actual paper rather than on himself.
Okay, I'll try and take each stage of the question one by one. Let's start by talking about rewards for doing work. They do definitely encourage engagement, and if your child's used to working for rewards such as a biscuit, it might not be a great idea to remove that completely. You've got a couple of options. So you could try replacing the biscuit with something else that they like. It could be piece of fruit, or it could be an activity that they really like instead, and then you're moving away from lots of unhealthy biscuits. I know that this is something that Emily will be covering in her behaviour webinar next week, so definitely sign up for that too. Another option is, particularly if you want your child to paint the paper rather than on themselves, is when you're encouraging them to do the tasks the way you want them to do it, and they're complying with that and they're doing that, the reward at the end could be they're allowed to engage in that resource the way that they want to. It's a really easy way of making something fun to end. It's also worth noting that lots of our children have a developmental delay, and exploring resources with your hands and with your body is a perfectly natural stage of development. So it might be that your child is currently in that stage of development, and this is how they're learning about the world around them. So it's important to give them opportunities to do that. In terms of encouraging them to sit for a little bit longer, like the last question, start where your child's at and build up over time slowly. Keep the activity interesting by varying the resources you use. So as well as painting with your hands, you can paint with different tools. So you could use paintbrushes, obviously, but also think about using things like leaves or twigs that you find in the garden. You could try using sponges or potato mashers, anything that you can make different shapes and different patterns with to keep the activity interesting. You can also add things to paint. So if you add shaving foam to paint, it makes it really smooth. If you add sand to it, it makes it really heavy and really grainy. So you get a different feel when you're painting with it. And it'll just help to keep your child engaged because the activity changes slightly different each different time you use it. Also experiment with painting in different locations, particularly if they're at the stage where they like covering their hands and themselves with the paint. If you've got a bathroom, think about investing in some bath paints, and then it's much easier to tidy up. Or if you've got outside space, painting outside where you can just hose it down afterwards, and model new things to your child as you're working with them. So if you want to show them a new way of using the paint, do it too, and do it with them so they can see, and then prompt them to do it. If they are really struggling with kind of painting the walls and painting themselves, don't worry about kind of just directing their hand back down to the paper where you want them to paint to start with. You might have to do that several times, but eventually they will get the idea that, oh, it's okay to put it on the paint. If I'm playing with the paper, then nobody's stopping me doing that. But if I'm going for the walls, if I'm going for myself, then that might get blocked. I think that's all the bits of the question.
Yeah, all those ideas were really lovely, imaginative. The next question is, I put the videos from the school on, but my child walks away. What can I do?
This is another really common problem that we hear about a lot. There's various different things that you can try. I'd start by watching videos made by members of your child's class team, so they are the most familiar adults that they have come into contact with on a daily basis when they've been in school and in class. If possible, sit with them and comment on what's going on, so that you're showing them what interested looking at a video looks like. So, oh, look, it's Sangeeta. Wow, what's she doing? So kind of make it show really clearly that you're engaged and interested in what's going on. If that's still not working, think about using the videos as kind of a bit of a prompt for you, and instead of asking your child to sit and watch them, grab some of the resources from around the house that you can see in the video and recreate the activity with you as the leader instead of the adult on the video leading it. Now, obviously, you won't always have all of those resources to hand at home. So think about how you can adapt the things that you're seeing and adapt the techniques that you're seeing to your own activities, so you know that your child will be interested in them.
Yeah. And I guess children from the school won't be used to seeing adults from school in their living room on the TV. So you might have to, put it on a couple of times before they might take an interest as well.
Yeah.
So you don't really know what kind of emotions it brings out in children when they see familiar adults as well. So
yeah, I mean, there is the possibility that they're confused by the fact that this is someone they used to see a lot and now they don't see them at all. And in that case, definitely go for recreating the activities in the video in your house yourself.
Cool. So that brings us to our next question. I'd like to read books with my child, but they don't seem to enjoy them. What can I do?
This is a really nice activity to do with your children at home. The first thing I'd think about doing is simplifying the story as you read it, particularly if your child wants to turn the pages a lot quicker than you do, or if there's a lot of words on each page. Start by using a book that you know really well, and then it's much easier to simplify as you go along. And try and choose a book that has got a theme that your child is interested in, or that that they'll enjoy. Get them involved in the storytelling as well by adding in rhymes or phrases or actions that you can bring in throughout the story. So in a story like we're going on a bear hunt, you've got that we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we've got to go through it, and get your child to join in every time that comes. You could add actions in if you wanted. If you can, use actions and objects from around your house to tell the story as well, or role play bits of the story, so it becomes much more tangible for the children to understand, and allow your child to explore them as you're reading the book. Another option is to talk about the pictures in the book, so point out the characters and point out what they're doing or other items in the pictures, and you can ask your child to find characters or items in the pictures as well. If your child's still really struggling with this, another option is to read the book in sections. So I'm going to use bear hunt as an example again. So they go through the long grass, they go through the mud, they go through the snow. Focus on one of those ideas for one day and just look at that page of the book, and then build an activity around it that your child can do. So if the page that you're looking at is the day when they're going out through the swishy swashy grass, take them outside and walk through some long swishy squashy grass as you're looking at the picture and reading the words on the page, or make some grass from kind of green paper and play with that. The muddy field one's a great one, because you can make your own mud or use sand and water to make it really sensory and encourage your child to get involved and get in and feel what it feels like on their feet and their hands. And just keep trying. The more exciting you make the activities, the more likely they are to jump on board and join in with you.
Yeah, and also teachers would be happy to help if you're stuck for ideas on certain books. Definitely. So if you've got certain books at home, I guess the teachers could help you with what kind of props you could use, or how to engage them.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll also be able to suggest books that your child's enjoyed reading in class, and revisiting those is a really nice way to consolidate their understanding and their learning of the books. It might be a nice way into them sharing books with you too.
Yeah. So next question is, how can I get my child to start writing?
A simple answer to this is by making it fun. Give your child loads of opportunities to make marks in lots of different media, using their fingers and using their tools. So kind of building on the stuff I was talking about in answer to the painting question earlier on. So you can make marks in shaving foam when you spread it on the table. Paint is an obvious one. Mixing corn flour and water together makes a really nice, smooth media to make marks in. You can also use things like dry rice, and as many tools as you can find: leaves, sponges, cloth, bits of cardboard. I saw a really nice activity the other day where they were using damp tea bags of different flavors of tea, and they were making different colored marks by dragging them around by the string. Plastic bags, sticks, sponges, and then the obvious stuff like pens and crayons and chalks. You want to encourage your child to make as many different types of marks and scribbles as possible. And once they're independently making a really nice range of shapes and patterns in the scribble, you're ready to move on to learning to make specific marks, which is the next step in learning to write specific letters. In school for this, we use something called the ABC Boom handwriting program, which teaches all the different strokes that you use to create a letter independently from one another, and then you learn to join them up together again later. So an example of this might be if you wanted to write a lowercase l or an uppercase I, so just a vertical downward stroke. In the ABC Boom program, we would use the sound plop for that. We connect it with a big downwards motion using your arm like that. And the picture prompt that we would link with that is a raindrop falling into a pool of water. Similarly, if you were going to do across the screen like that, we'd call that vroom. So every time we make the sound, we go vroom. We'd have a picture prompt of a car and a traffic light and that action. And we go through all the different strokes you need. We encourage the children to imitate those strokes using their whole arm, like I've just demonstrated on the screen. We work on tracing them with a finger, tracing them with a writing tool and then beginning to write them more independently. And then once you've learnt the whole range of them, we start teaching children how to join them together. If this is something that you are interested in pursuing with your child, definitely get in contact with your child's class teacher and your child's occupational therapist, and they will be able to give you all the information and all the resources you need to help you do this at home. I'll give out email addresses for class teachers and therapists at the very end, rather than reminding you the whole way through what they are. If your child can already write words or write some letters, it's really important that if you're trying to encourage them to write at home, think of writing as a form of communication. So it's got to have meaning for the child. So keep working on communication, spoken communication, or their picture communication, depending on what system of communication they use. And if you are encouraging them to write, think about making it functional. So writing labels for things around the house, or writing cards to relatives or friends, or signs to put in the window. So there's a real function behind what you're doing, so they understand that writing is a form of communication.
Thank you. That's lots of lovely ideas. The next question is, my child does the same thing over and over again with their toys. How can I help them play differently?
Lots of our children do this. They'll find a toy and do the same with the thing with it every single time that they use it. And it might be because that's how they most enjoy playing with that toy, but it might also be that they don't know how to use it in a different way. So the key to this is definitely sitting down and playing with them with the toy, either taking short turns, or if your child doesn't like taking turns, having a set of similar toys that you can play with too, and playing alongside them and modeling different ways to play with the toy. So showing, oh look, I can do this with it, and encouraging them to have a go too, and then acknowledging them when they try with praise. And if they do something new with a toy, you copy it too, so they can see that you're really interested in what you're doing and it looks fun, so fun that you want to join in. So for example, if your child really enjoys lining up toy cars, show them how to move one car from the front or the side of the line, zoom it all around the room and back, and line it up at the other end of the line, so you're starting to extend those play skills. You could model having races with the cars as well, draw some roads for them to follow with the cars. And eventually you'll be able to chain lots of these little individual play skills together to create a whole chain of play skills that your child will be able to play more independently with. It's also really important when you're teaching play skills like this that you do allow the child time to play with the toys how they want to as well. So kind of intersperse them playing the way they want with you showing them new ways, and then allowing them to go back to playing how they want. And eventually you will see the new things that you're introducing appear in their own independent play.
Yeah, that's really lovely as well, because sometimes you could also get your other children involved in that as well. Just playing alongside and modeling is the key thing, I guess. And hopefully in small steps it does come by.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we've got, my child will play with me but not his siblings. What can I do?
This kind of touches on what you were just talking about. Definitely, if they've got similar interests in toys and you have enough resources to do it, and start encouraging them to play next to each other. So they've each got their own set of toys, but they're playing next to each other using their own set of toys. And then you can develop that by having them play next to each other, but having a shared set of toys. So you're starting to bring in some sharing skills and some turn-taking skills. And then it's important that you go in and model and facilitate some turn-taking games that are fun for both of the children, and teach them those skills really explicitly so they know what's going on and why it's important, and that it's still fun when you are playing in this way. If your child's got older siblings, you could ask them to play with your child's favourite toy, and then model to your child how to ask for a turn, and make sure that the sibling does know that if the request is made, they've got to hand it over. But yeah, this is a hard one, but it's one that's really beneficial to work on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And our next question is, my child is bored of their toys. How can I make them more interesting without spending lots of money on new ones?
This is definitely a question, particularly as we've now been at home for so long.
Yeah.
Again, modelling and prompting new ways of playing with the toys can spark a new interest in old toys or toys that children are a bit bored of. Again, reward attempts that your child makes to do something different with a toy with lots of praise and an opportunity to play in their own way. Think about being imaginative as well. Can you use the toys to represent something else? So can you turn a toy banana into a telephone and have a role play conversation? Or if they're bored of their toy cars, can you turn them into a car wash and give them a bowl of water and a toothbrush and some soap and get them to clean them? So they're exploring the same toys in a different way. Alternatively, you could get creative and use resources such as paper and blue tack to make new decorations for a toy and turn it into something else to play with. Show your children how to combine different sets of toys in a play session. So if you've got little people and little cars, get the people to ride on the cars. So you're showing them new skills and new ways to play. Another option you could use is just to only have certain toys available at certain times, to pack some of their toys away and then regularly swap the toys that you have out and available round, so that the selection that your child's got to choose from remains fresh.
Yeah.
Try and make sure that there's a few of their favourite toys in each of the selections, so that there's always something that you know that they're going to like playing with. But if they don't see it for a few days or a week, when it comes back, they're more likely to want to go back and play with it again because they'll remember how much fun it used to be.
Yeah. Great, that's really nice ideas there. Our next question is, my child refuses to do the work set from school. What can I do?
This is a hard one because it could be for lots of different reasons. If it's just some of the work that your child's refusing to do and not all of the work, I mean, they could be refusing to do it because they think they don't know how to do it, or they really don't like the task that's been set. So again, I'd go back and use a now and next board, so they know it's going to be for a short period of time and then something else is going to happen afterwards that they prefer doing. Make sure you've got a really good balance between work and leisure activities. So don't expect your child to work all the time. Definitely contact your child's class teacher and ask for some support. You can also repeat tasks from previous weeks as well. So if there's one particular task that they really don't like doing, that's okay, because we want to make sure that your child is happy and safe at home. So repeat tasks from previous weeks that they've really enjoyed doing or they found enjoyable to do. And this isn't a problem because it helps them to consolidate their learning. Repetition is really important for lots of our children. It helps deepen their learning and their understanding so they remember it for longer. If it's all work tasks, this is definitely more difficult to deal with at home. But start by following your child's interests and try and bringing learning into their play sessions, kind of sneaking it in through the back door almost, rather than explicitly labeling it as this is a work session now. Things like matching and imitation and communication skills can all be worked on in play sessions that will benefit your child accessing their learning as they go forwards. And it's okay to not do the work that the teacher set if you're really struggling, and work on other skills instead. But definitely contact your child's class teacher if this is the case, and they'll be able to suggest ways that they'll either be able to set some really personalised tasks that you can try with your child that they might be more willing to engage in, or they'll be able to suggest ways that you can adapt the existing tasks. Help out.
I think a lot of the children from our school will be quite familiar with the now and next system. And once given the option of what they can do next, a lot of them will sit down and be happy to do even a little bit. And I guess you could also break down a piece of work, like into little small steps, and even if they could do the first few steps, that would be a way in.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of breaking it down and making it easier and shorter.
Yeah.
Great way to go.
Okay, so next question is, I've tried to do the work sent by school, but my child doesn't understand the instructions. What can I do?
Definitely model how to do the work for your child, to show them how to do it with them or next to them, so you're completing it together. And then the next day, repeat the task and gradually reduce the number of prompts that you're giving them until they're doing it independently. As I said before, repetition's really good in helping our children solidify their understanding and their learning, particularly if they're learning something new or something that's difficult. So start by doing it together, show them how to do it, let them take a turn, help them where they need help, and then gradually reduce that help as they become more confident with it. Yeah.
Cool.
I am just going to see if I can open the chat function. Okay. So before we do the next question, so if you have any specific questions that you want to ask me, if there's time at the end, we'll try and answer as many of them as possible. Let me see if I can work out how to do that. Okay, hopefully that's done that. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions that you have, and we'll try and answer them at the end.
Okay, so the next question is, my child has completed all their schoolwork. What else can I teach them?
So definitely think about functional skills and life skills that you can work on with your child. Start with things that they are nearly able to do already. So these could be kind of independent eating skills, dressing skills, tidying, loading the dishwasher, wiping tables, all the sort of things that you need to live an independent life. Work on those skills, work on their communication skills with them as well, and their play skills, because learning to be able to entertain yourself is a really important skill as you grow up. If your child really enjoys all their schoolwork and they're actively seeking out more, speak to your class teacher and ask for some extension tasks as well. In the meantime, use the reading eggs and maths seeds apps with your child. Every child's got an account that they can log into and do lots of literacy and numeracy activities on there. But it is important to remember, particularly if your child wants to do lots and lots of work, that they do need a good work-life balance as well, and it's okay not to spend all of your time in work activities. Learning how to play is really important too. But if they see you in the kitchen and they're interested, teach them how to chop up a carrot, teach them how to help you prepare food as well. Those are all really important skills that our children need to learn. And spending time at home is a really good way of facilitating that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good chance to work on all those things because, you know, in the mornings there's no pressure, like time pressure. So, you know, you can spend lots of time on like dressing and undressing and brushing teeth and things like that. So it's really handy to do things like that. Okay, so we're to our last question. My child will work with me, but not my husband. He always lets him get away with things.
This is a really common question we get asked. And I definitely recommend if this is something you're struggling with, go to Emily's webinar on behaviour next week, and I know she'll be working through some of these issues as well. But begin by having both of you work as a team to lead an activity with your child and share out the instructions, because with both of you there, you can see how each other are doing things differently. And if you're working as one team, the child will know that they have to follow both people's instructions. Make sure the activity is a fun one, obviously, and that it's one that your child will all find easy to engage with. And then hopefully you'll be able to start taking a step back, and your husband can start taking on more of a lead role in that activity with both of you together. Lots of the children at school really thrive when boundaries and expectations are really clear and consistent. So it might be worth sitting down and talking about how you can meet in the middle with kind of your expectations with regards to what your child should and shouldn't be able to get out of doing. And as I said, come to Emily's webinar next week. Before we look at some of the chat questions, I thought I would go through and give you some of the email addresses that you might need in order to access some more support. So if you want to contact your child's class teacher, the email address is the name of their class. So for example, sunflower@manor.brent.sch.uk. Your child's occupational therapist is ot@manor.brent.sch.uk. And your child's speech and language therapist is salt@manor.brent.sch.uk. We have a couple of questions from the chat function. The first one is, I've been watching your videos on YouTube. How can I do my own book at home? So this is linking to one of the techniques that we use in class called attention autism. And it's designed to help our children learn to focus their attention on an adult-led activity. There are 4 stages. Most of the videos that you can see on the website have got stages 1 and 2, or stages 1, 2, and 3. So stage 1 is helping your child to focus their attention on an adult's activities for a very short period of time, kind of 3 or 4 minutes. And you do that by pulling out something really motivating to look at from a bucket, and the adult playing it with it themselves, and then putting it in and pulling out something else. So they're watching an adult playing with 3 toys, in essence, or completing 3 very short activities that are fun to look at. It's really important for the bucket stage that you try not to let your children have a go. That comes later, that comes in stage 3. Stage 2 is using, kind of trying to extend that attention. Once you've captured their attention, you've got them focused on what you're doing with a really enjoyable activity. It's trying to extend that attention for a longer period of time by doing any activity that is visually pleasing. So something that's really interesting to look at, that's got a really nice beginning, a middle, and a really nice wow factor for the ending. So, and again, the adult leads it and the children watch. And then at stage 3, we start incorporating turn-taking games. But I definitely recommend, if this is something that you're interested in doing at home, drop me an email on the autism@manor.brent.sch.uk email, and I can send you some more information. I can also send you links to a whole range of videos and more information that we have access to on Gina Davis's website. So she's the speech and language therapist that created Attention Autism, and we can support you to have a go at home. Another question: what skills or coping mechanisms can you teach a child to engage with their surroundings and stop the child from withdrawing into themselves and talking to themselves? This can be a really difficult one to manage, because quite often withdrawing into themselves is a coping mechanism in itself for our children if they're feeling insecure or if they're feeling anxious about something. I would definitely start by sitting near them, not necessarily interacting with them to start off with, but sitting near them and engaging in an activity that you know that they're going to find interesting, but you as the adult carrying it out. So if your child's really into painting, set yourself up a little paint station and really overtly enjoying it. It's a comment on what you're doing. Oh, I really love this red paint. Or oh, this is brilliant. I really like this. Oh, what a beautiful picture. And try and use the way you're engaging with the activity to entice your child over. You want them to join you voluntarily rather than making them join you. And if it doesn't work the first time, try again with another activity and keep trying. If you see them glancing over towards you, say, oh, why don't you come and join us? In terms of them talking to themselves, definitely sit down and engage in kind of find activities that you can spark communication opportunities, like Ellie was talking about in our last webinar. If you didn't attend that, the links are out on the school website and on the form for joining up for the webinar. So have a look at what she was talking about creating communication opportunities and motivation to communicate. And over time that will reduce them talking to themselves. And just provide as kind of as rich and as a varied environment around them as you can.
Yeah. Cool.
Are there any other questions from anybody? I'll give you a minute or so to see if you've got any other questions, and then if there aren't any more, I'll hand back to Sangeeta.
We've had some great questions today.
Yeah, we've covered a real range of skills and activities and issues
kind of
that
questions
our children face.
Always coming up. So it's nice that you've given us so many good ideas.
I don't think there are any more conversations. Oh, I've had one more. Is echolalia something to worry about? So echolalia is when a child repeats words or phrases or sounds that they've heard in the past. Sometimes it happens kind of immediately after they hear a phrase, and sometimes it happens out of context for quite a long time after they've heard the initial phrase. Sometimes it happens because children really enjoy playing with sounds. Sometimes it might be that they're trying to communicate something, or but they're not sure what words to use, or it might be that they're kind of embedding their learning of new words. But if it's something that you are worried about your child doing, definitely contact your child's speech and language therapist and ask for some more support with that. I know it's something that lots of our children engage in for lots of different reasons, but definitely speak to your child's speech and language therapist about that. And you can contact them on the salt@manor.brent.sch.uk email address.
Okay, so I think we'll end our session now. Thank you, Amy, for all your lovely ideas, and
thank you very
everyone.
much, Sangeeta.
No worries, and
thanks everybody.
Thank you everyone for joining. Please join us again next Friday for our third and last webinar focused on behaviour. We hope to see you all again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.